Bythjul.com. Däck och fälgar online direkt hem till din dörr eller närmaste verkstad.
SUVs in the car market has more or less become a phenomenon. Everyone wants them. They want to sit high, they want to feel safe, and they want to get that status etiquette of knowing, well, I have a SUV. This is a very neat package. It's a medium-sized sports SUV. And do we really need some medium-sized sports SUVs? Well, of course we do. This is the Jaguar F-Pace SVR, and it's been around since 2017. It's got a facelift 2021. Mostly the front, it's been updated. That grille is a bit different. You get some bigger intakes. The light is a bit new. And also the rear lights, which is a bit more sleek. And you got these 4 tailpipes which are integrated into that bumper. And it looks really fast. It looks really elegant. And Jaguar, there is something about it. I don't want to call it sexy, but it's a bit more passion in it. And every time I step into a Jag, I feel a bit more, suited up. Rolling off, and let's see how we can turn this around on a small road like this. You got this 360 camera system that helps you so you can see exactly where the car is. Always very smart. I just love white interiors. It expresses the design and everything in here so much better. And you feel refreshed every time you step into a car that is light inside. I think that all cars should have that. But of course, it becomes dirty. And we're starting off in Eco mode. And Eco mode is rather good because you need to keep the consumption down. This is a rather thirsty car. Who wouldn't expect? It's a little over 13 liters per 100 kilometers. And this one you want to push on a bit more so it will just race. But if you're a bit careful and you drive in Eco mode, you can feel that there is some latency to everything. It's a bit more, it doesn't want to change gear. It's a bit more resistant, so the engine isn't that alive. And you need to push it a bit harder. It just stays down there and it gets some green indication on the rev counter here. That's pretty good. So it almost forces you to drive calm and the engine doesn't get aroused in any way. So that saves you a couple of drops. But it's a relaxed car like this. It's well stuffed, it's very quiet. The seats, they are good. Of course, they're very, very sporty. And they are just so beautiful to look at. Look at the stitching and look at how thin they are. So they're real bucket seats. But bucket seats, they tend to be very hard and very uncomfortable. But these, they are not. Well stuffed in the base, even though the base, I would like to tilt it down a bit more. Feels like it's sticking up a bit more. But of course you get some better relaxation. When driving along like this, it's very civilized. When driving in Eco mode, the engine is calm. It just works there, very strong. But if you want to turn on the exhaust note, turn up the volume a bit more, well, you just push that button with the symbol of the exhaust pipes there. And then you get a bit more of that characteristic rumble. Because it is a characteristic rumble that nowadays has become a bit more rare. Not that many cars that has this sound anymore. That is very pure. It is elegant from the exterior to the interior, and it becomes a bit classy driving it because you know from its history that Jags, they've always created good-looking cars. 21-inch rims, red calipers. I like this cutaway. It looks really fast when you look at it in profile. It feels rather low, and it has some more of its own underpinning, so it becomes a bit lighter, a bit sharper. So it hasn't borrowed a lot of parts from the Land Rover shelf. And of course the SVR, that means that you get a big engine. And of course it's a big engine in this one. It's a 5-liter supercharged V8 engine that produces 550 horsepower, 700 Newton meters of torque. It does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4 seconds dead, and a top speed of 286 kilometers an hour. So this is a seriously fast mid-sized SUV. We're rather used to this engine now. It's been around for some time, so it feels a little old. It's not that technically new, but it's extremely charming. When you push on in this car, well, you just smile every time. It's not like you get used to it. And that is something. But of course, the competitors, they might have some more sharper technical engines, like for instance the BMW X3M Competition, a bit more agile engine there, and the whole car might be suited up a bit better for track handling and super sport driving. There is also the Mercedes GLC 63 AMG, and there is the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. But this one leans towards a bit more comfort, and it is really comfortable. It takes on beat up roads very, very good. This one costs from 1,300,000 Swedish crowns, and this specific one cost 1,400,000 Swedish crowns. So you get a lot in this package. It's elegant, it's nice, it's fast, but the depreciation on these cars, I think they will drop rather hard, and the tax on this car is rather high. Then it's the running costs. It is rather thirsty. 1.3 liters, a little more combined, and you will always push the accelerator a lot in this car because it is that charming. So that bill will become even bigger, and then you need to insure it as well. So talking about being a status symbol, well, if you want to pay a lot of money, you can see that as a status, and it becomes rather rare. And this color together with this black trim line and that interior, I think it's just a perfect blend. I love red cars. And this color is called Sanguinello Orange, and it's in glossy finish. Start pushing it a bit, and that is really nice. I mean, for you, for the passengers, this car feels like it's made to make you feel good in that old-fashioned way. And it feels strong. A V8, 700 Newton meters of torque, 550 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4 seconds flat, and the top speed over 280 kilometers an hour makes for a very, very fast SUV in this more compact segment. Rivals to this car is the BMW X3M Competition, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio, and the Mercedes GLC 63 AMG. These are some really, really fast performance SUVs in a compact format, and I think that's the format that SUVs should go for, because I've been driving that X3 Competition on track, felt really, really good. And also the Stelvio, that is quick, very nippy, and that steering, it's among the best. This one, the character of the engine is maybe not that alive. It's there, it's powerful, it's always there. You can really feel it, that it's with you along the way, you know, every little gradual input on this throttle, and it's so strong all the time. But even so, it feels like it's leaned to more strong cruising approach, even though this is very well set up for being sporty when you really want it to. But in an SVR product like this, well, you want to get into the dynamic mode. Shine a bit red here, of course. Lift that feeling of it's time to go a little quicker and more ambitious. And when getting into that setting, everything becomes a bit more firm, a bit more tightened up. The dynamic settings in all the segments, if you can get in here, well, you can see that everything is dynamic. Here you got a helmet, you get in, you see that the engine is in dynamic, the steering is in dynamic, the gear shifts are in dynamic, and the suspension and chassis is set in dynamic. So everything is dynamic. So you as a driver know that, yep, I'm set for race here. I've always liked these ZF gearboxes. They're very, very comfortable to drive with. Quick enough, a bit lazy maybe, but they just suit the cars and the engine in some way. But this one has been tuned a little, so it's a bit quicker on the upshifts and the downshifts, because the gear changes in this one is very nice to handle, especially with these paddles. Look at these aluminium paddles, hear that sound, they get a bit more weight to them. And you might argue that, does that matter? Well, it does matter. Having a real feel and a little extra weight when you push in another gear, that just lifts the whole experience of driving hard. And these ones, they are just perfect in length, and that material, well, I fancied that a lot. Here you push it, and it revs out all the way to 7,000 RPM, and it just becomes so much fun when pushing that V8 to its max. Inside the cabin, it just feels like, wow, this is elegance. This aniline leather, black contrast together with the white, and the seats. They catch your attention quickly because look at them. They look like bucket seats, thin, but they give you such good support with so much comfort at the same time. This base is extremely well stuffed, so it's very, very comfy, soft and nice. It's a bit tilted upwards. I like to tilt it down a bit more, so that's my only complaint about that, because I want to feel a bit more free down here, but you get good support. And the dressing of the roof in this Alcantara looking material looks so good. And it feels like in here, that's where most things has happened, really. Because there is a new design on the dashboard. You get this new screen, that little curved screen, which I just love. Said that before in the Range Rover Sport and the Range Rover. It's intuitive and easy to understand. These push and pull knobs, which I think works really good. This doesn't work as good. Don't know how hard you need to push this haptic buttons. This button, which changes the drive modes. You can go from a bit of off-roading mode, eco, comfort, and then dynamic, and that's its hardcore mode, of course. You can choose if you want to have that exhaust note a bit amplified or not. A little roll here for the volume. This gearbox, it's good. It frees up space and it looks good, and you can rest your hand on it, but it feels a little flimsy in its, operation mode. A little plastic, but not too much of that piano glossy looking stuff, and I like that. Keep away from that. You get the Meridian sound system, which sounds great. The small memory buttons up here feels like they are aluminium or something. That is also those touches that makes it a bit more luxurious. And this little hole under here makes it just a little roomier when you look at it. But it's a swooping, nice line. This console here just looks so good. Steering wheel, great. I love this one because it's just perfect to my hands. It's carved out really well. Get some nice structure on the outside here. Might feel a little plastic, but on the inside, well, it's leather, and it's nice stitching here as well. SVR logo down here, and you get some of these haptic buttons on the steering wheel. I think this is a bit flimsy here. Take some time to get around that, and you don't know if you've pushed it because it doesn't really click that distinctly. And the paddle shifters in aluminium. That is a great touch because you just don't want to have plastic. You want to have a bit of weight to it that makes it feel a bit better when you're out driving. Feels a bit more heavy pushing the next gear in. Cluster in front, very good graphics. You can arrange it a little how you want it. If you want to have your board computer on the left or the right, your navigation. You can have two dials if you want to have both your speedometer and your rev counter. But I have it set in that center rev counter. So it just gives me revs and the speed in the middle. And then you can put up your G meter at the side and all of that. So you can rearrange as you want, but it doesn't feel that plastic anywhere around here. Well, sure, a little here, but it's more dominated by all this leather and the Alcantara and the great design. So it just feels like a very top-notch premium product. In the back seat looks just as elegant, but something that looks very, very pleasing and elegant is that you can sit and watch these two bucket seats in front of you. It feels more like, well, I want to sit there because that's where the action is. Even though these seats back here, they also got a very sporty shape over them. It says SVR in the headrest, a little hole here, and that feels just very sporty. I think that I got some space to put my feet under that seat. The base seat is good. It sticks out a little, so you get some rest, but they're rather low. Now I got some high boots here, so my knees are rather high. But, you know, it's plenty of space to the roof. But if you're 185 or something like that, plus 185, then it might become a bit cramped. But still, the feeling back here, all this leather and the Alcantara, the digital cluster and these knobs back here to change the climate in the back seat, makes you feel that you have some luxury. You got ISOFIX here, put your baby seat in, armrest with cup holders, and this big roof that lets in all the light. It feels very roomy, and that's why you should choose white interior. Black interior makes it a bit dull. I mean, look at this. This is extra in a car like this, of course, when they've put that much effort into the design. And of course, it gets a bit dirty if you have kids here or all of that, but you know, just take care of the seats and you're fine, because you feel a bit more invigorated and energized having this light interior. And it makes it feel a lot more roomier than it might be. But for me, it feels just good back here. Kick down, 0 to 100 in 4 seconds. It is, it's fast enough, this one. And from the outside, it's just pure joy to listen to this car. You can hear it coming from far, far away. Brakes, see how they feel. The brakes are up to par. It is a rather heavy car, but the brakes takes care of that weight nicely. And it hasn't got any of this rear wheel steering, but that is just fine. You know where you put it, and you learn it a lot quicker than having a rear wheel steered car, because they always tend to throw you into a corner very quickly when you drive a bit faster and sportier. But the steering in this one just feels good. Patches of ice and snow, so it's always comforting knowing four-wheel drive is there when you push it, so you got some grip out of the corners. But still, four-wheel drive doesn't save you when you get too fast into a corner, so you need to be wary of the surface, especially when you drive a heavy car like this. But it's cool. In this segment, having this big V8 engine makes it stand out a little. I think that's what characterizes it. Sure, downsizing, having a 4-cylinder engine, light, nice turn-ins, and the overall weight becomes a bit more subtle and easier to control. The power and that surge and that sound gives it another presence, another majestic feel over it. And I just love that. Oh, it feels like you almost feel that there is enough power, so you short shift a lot earlier because it pulls up to pace very fast. So it feels like you short shift a lot. You don't rev it all the way out like you do in a smaller engine. So you can live on that torque band in the middle and just pull up the speed. And that is also very sporty, because you can find yourself the perfect corner and you can keep a higher gear. And that's very good because it calms down the car instead of just revving it out all the time. That can be a bit nervous. Short shifting sometimes makes it more stable, and then you can gain some more speed in a more controlled way. So that's also a very big plus when it comes to a big, strong V8 engine. Here's a bit more rough road, and we put it into comfort now. And it feels like this one is not really intended to be a super duper performance track day mid-sized SUV. It feels like it's more of a cruiser because the chassis is just great. It's very subtle, it's very relaxed, together with the seats that are well stuffed, even though these bucket seats, they keep you in place for real rock and roll, hardcore track driving and curvy roads. And the chassis really takes on these beat up roads in a good way. You know, I drove through some holes there, but at the same time, you know that there is a devil underneath. On the road here, it doesn't feel too urgent of being that sport dedicated mid-sized SUV. And there's some elegance to that. Jaguar elegance, something about the name that just makes you feel good, makes me feel good. I like Jaguars, I like the design. SUVs, well, not my favorites, but this one, it's got its elegance. It feels like it has come a bit from the F-types and all the Jags throughout the years, which are extremely beautiful cars. So they maintain the looks on this one, and you just don't go downsizing. You keep this big engine there because it's for your pleasure. It's for your satisfactory. And I think that that is just such a great move. And also this rumble, people always look when they hear something like this. It becomes like a cozy factor for people. You recognize our V8 rumble sound. Why not share the joy? It's good. So they haven't been overthinking of making this car as super effective as it could be. And that's a great plus. I admire that they keep this engine. That's something that the SVR stands for. Having a big V8 engine that shouts all over the place. And that makes you happy as a customer. Having a car that is a bit more shouty, that has a bit more character. There's also a 575 horsepower version to this V8 engine, but this is just plenty enough. I mean, are you going to talk to someone that has a BMW X3 Competition or a Stelvio or a GLC 63 and say that, no, you know, my car is a bit better there, it's a bit quicker on track, it's a bit lighter? Who gives a damn about that, really? When you can get a V8 still, you can get it in a package that looks as good as this one. I think this looks better inside, even though the BMW and the Alfa, they have their design style that I like as well. But this one feels more elegant, feels more British, and feels a bit more majestic again. And it's so comfortable to drive. I like it a lot. So this is such a great alternative to many of its competitors, because it gives you so much driving joy, not just that engine, the whole setup, the chassis and how it works. Knowing that you still can buy a shouting V8 in this mid-sized SUV sport segment, that's the nugget here, and that's what sets this apart. And I mean, taking mid-sized SUVs to the track, maybe that's not the thing that you do, even though you can, because they are rather competent. When you get up into the bigger league, like the X5, the X6, and these bigger ones, the SVR, Range Rover SVR, and those bigger cars, well, they're a bit ridiculous when being driven hard on track, because it just becomes heavier and heavier, and you don't want to be heavy on the track. And of course, these cars are a bit heavy as well on the track, but you can have fun in them. And it is something special going really, really quick and taking hard corners, and of course, setting a car like this on track, especially when you have some passengers. They always think like, what is this? Can this go that quick? And that is joy. Let's rev it out here again, full throttle. You can feel how it whines, but still lets out all of that sound. This gearbox comes from the Project 8 from that SVO department, so it's a fresh unit, this one. It's been updated, it takes on the torque and the momentum a lot better, and it's also been updated so it's a lot quicker in its upshifts and in its downshifts. So together with this a bit old engine, even though this engine has a lot of character, it is a bit more re-energized, and that makes the whole ride a lot more energized. So once again, it's a bit more comfy setting type of mid-sized sport SUV. Sure, it is agile, it is quick as but when pushing it really, really hard, you can feel that it gets a little upset. It's like really doesn't want to be on that maximum level. Just a little below that. That's where it sits the best. And together with the engine, that's where it really sits the best, because it's got so much more momentum than the other type of engines. It's more of a real fast cruiser on some stretched, curvy roads. But this is a very desirable car, inside and out. All the tech, how it's been refurbished, and in this SVR segment, it is actually a rather good price for what you get. Drove the previous version, it's basically the same on track, and it worked well. But I would like to try this new one with the updated gear shifts, new chassis. I think this one can do really, really good on track. And of course it would be very interesting to see how it compares to the Stelvio and the X3 competition. See if we can do that.